What is up, everybody? It is your boy Farai. Thank you once again for tuning in. So this video basically is for all of the beginners who are new to recording and mixing within whatever software you're using. I'll just be breaking down the stock standard plugins that I think that you should focus on learning in order to get better results when mixing. So, if you're into that, stay tuned. If you are a bit more experienced, stay tuned for a bit more background info on specific types of plugins. You can kind of see the list of plugins that I'll be working with. But yeah, so let's get straight into it. So obviously, before worrying about any sort of mixing, I need you to focus on learning a bit about microphone placement, a bit about the room you're recording in, that kind of thing. So I will leave links in the description on how to record vocals. There's a really cool video that I found online that I've just been suggesting to people to watch on how to place your microphone, and you can go and do research on a bit about room acoustics and how to deaden your environment in order to record vocals without any kind of room interference. Basically, if you have really bad room tone in your room, your vocals are going to be really hard to mix. So keep that in mind. The worse your scenario for recording is, the harder it is to mix your vocals to sound good. So yeah, that being said, let's get straight into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fader, right? That's not really a plugin in itself, but the fader, right? We've got all these faders right here that we can kind of mess around and manipulate within FL Studio. And I need you to think about a fader as a volume controller, right? It's just like an MP3 player, your iPhone, whatever. It controls volume, So when you're recording vocals, as you can see, my vocals are really soft. They're hitting around -18. But, this beat, for example, if I play this beat real quick now, it's going to be really loud, so just keep that in mind. If you were trying to record your vocals to that, that's not really going to work out, right? Because, the beat is so loud and you're going to have to do so much editing while recording to get that level up. So the number one thing is just to turn that beat down. A really good starting point to kind of get your levels right is to kind of change it to -9. So let's take that down to -9. The beat's kind of overpowering, but at least I can hear, I can then apply a bit of compression and then turn it up so it's kind of leveled, you know what I mean? So that way I can actually hear my own voice while recording. Apologies for that being loud. But yeah, that's the most important thing, is just use your fader to get general levels so that you're not overdoing things on different plugins in order to kind of make up for that level change. So keep that in mind. And now we'll get straight into the plugin. So the first thing we have right here is the EQ. Alright, this is the most important thing. I'm just going to call this EQ because you can use whatever EQ you want. This is a stock standard parametric equalizer. Now, why this is important, and when you see an equalizer, I want you to think of really three things, alright, and that is tone, clarity, and depth. Alright, now I'll kind of break down those three terms one by one. Tone is really going to give you that sound, you know what I mean, that clean cut vocal sound that you may be looking for. When I think of an equalizer and vocals, I automatically think, okay, the vocal usually has a bit too much bass in it. So obviously when you listen to this, I've got an effects chain that I use in a video editing software, so the voice is consistent, so it might sound a bit more thin than I would want. But this is the first thing you want to do when EQing your vocals. It's just to create a little bit of a high cut, is what we call this. So you saw how I did that. I took it from a bell shape, wherever that was, to a cut, right? And then I just want to start cutting. Maybe let's say from 80 hertz, right? That's a traditional area to cut, all the way up to 200. Maybe even 120 might be a bit much, and just keep that there. So that's the first thing you want to do. That's going to help you just kind of clean up your vocal a little bit more. Then the next thing to worry about is the mud area, right? So that could be a low mid area. Let's actually make this nice and big. That's going to be around here, from, let's just say 120 all the way up to 500. You want to add a nice little bell style cut. This is a bell shape, and you just want to cut, you kind of want to look around your vocal, and just inspect where you might have that really nasty bump in your vocal, so you can clean that up. That's going to demud your vocals, you know what I mean? Next thing you want to do, I'm going to keep it really simple because this is a beginner's video, but the next thing you'd want to do is just do a bit of an air boost, alright? So your high end or your treble area, right, is ready from around 6K, 5000 hertz upwards. And doing this is going to give you some nice air. It's going to make your vocals sizzly. Now, I know a lot of people are using cheaper microphones. If you boost too much air on a cheap microphone, a USB microphone, it gets really cheap sounding, you know what I mean? It almost sounds like a telephone. Now you don't really want to boost too much, so it's worth investing in a M Audio M-Track interface and just get yourself a nice condenser microphone. You can get one cheap. The Scarlett Focusrite microphones are pretty cheap, but still usable, you know what I mean? That's going to get you starting. It's going to get you started off. That's what I wanted to say. Now another little bonus trick you can try is just to cut around 1000 hertz, just so you can get rid of some of the kind of cheapness or harshness or shrill telephone effect kind of out of your vocals, so you can start around 900 hertz if it's sounding a bit nasally, and then kind of work your way up to 3000 hertz. That's kind of where the pain frequency of our ears are. So work around this region and do a cut, you know what I mean? Try not to boost too much as a beginner. It's really important to learn how to cut the unwanted frequencies. Ideally you want to try and set up your microphone that you don't have to cut that much, you know what I mean? But as you get better, you can start oh, this was never enabled. But that's a good thing, because at least you can just listen to what I'm saying. But yeah, over time you will start to experiment with the EQ and kind of train your ear. But for now, all I would say focus on is your cuts and then your boosts. You know what I mean? And mess around with that, and maybe just do a cut around here, right, in the bass mud region, and then try and do a nice little sharpish cut around the telephone region, which is like 1000 up to 3000, and just play around, and that should automatically get you a cleaner sound. Alright, so next thing that we'll worry about is the compressor. Alright, so I've got different types of compressors right here. These two are stock, and all a compressor is really is a leveling tool. Alright, when you think of compression, I want you to think of the word consistency, alright, and balance. Now, balance in regard to level, not balance in terms of like bass and treble and all that. But when I compress, what I want to do is kind of level the vocals so that loud parts don't sound much louder than even the softer parts of my vocals. So a nice little, I will this is just for visual representation, but a compressor, all you really want to do is and please go watch a full video on each little specific part of the compressor. Actually, I will break it down since this is a beginner's video. The threshold is really where things kick in, right? So let's actually go over to here. Unfortunately, this doesn't look like a traditional compressor, but a threshold knob, right, basically indicates to the compressor when should I start working, you know what I mean? So if I'm looking at my vocal right now and I'm thinking I want to get it nice and consistent, I might start compressing around there, you know what I mean? Because that's kind of a middle ground for the compressor to kind of go, okay, when anything gets above this blue line, I'm gonna start compressing, you know what I mean? So a beginner's rule is just to set up your compressor and then set up a ratio of 2 to 1. So I want you just to look in the left corner right there, and you'll see me just look for a 2 to 1 ratio. Basically that means for every 2 decibels in, you get 1 decibel out. So it's really just halving the level. As you can see right now, it is compressing. And then just mess around with your attack and release time. Attack time really just means when the compressor starts to work. Release time means when it lets go. You don't have to worry too much about it. I remember when I was a beginner in FL, I was just setting up the compressor just as it was, 2 to 1 ratio, set the threshold to where it starts to squish the vocal in a nice natural way, and you will be good to go. Alright, now another little trick is to use something like the W1 limiter. All this really is going to do is make the vocal much louder. Alright, so I'll enable this, and you can see when I pull down this threshold knob, the vocal gets much louder. Alright, so obviously I'll edit that in post-production, but that's a really cool trick to just get instant loudness. W1 limiter, amazing. Alright, so that's a little add-on bonus right there in terms of compressors. Now last but not least, we have our effects plugins. Now when you think of delay and reverb, this is a reverb plugin, this is a delay plugin. I want you to think of 2 terms, right? Space and depth. Alright, now what I mean by that is your vocal on its own in the dead space that you might be recording in might just have a certain sound to it. It might just be a bit dead, but as soon as you start to inject a bit of delay, or essentially slap delay, just follow these key terms. Download this Valhalla Echo, it is free. Let me size this up a bit so you can see. But you want to start messing around with the delay and injecting that delay into your vocal, just so you get a cool kind of sound. So I'm going to leave that as it is, but a slap delay, I want you to Google that as well, is essentially a kind of echo sound, you know what I mean? And that's traditional within music, that would add a little bit of a slapback effect just to create space in the vocal, give the vocal a bit of depth, you know what I'm saying? So we've got this set up. Let's actually do it as if it was in a different DAW, because I know a lot of DAWs don't have this wet and dry knob, but we've got the mix knob right here, which is a wet and dry balance. Dry being no effect, wet being effect. So we've got a kind of slap area right here, which is 90 milliseconds onwards. We can even go for something way cooler, like a 30 millisecond, 10 millisecond, just to give our vocal a bit of a depth to it. But I want you to listen to what happens to the vocal. So I can't actually hear what's going on, but we'll just see what happens right here. 20%, hopefully you can hear the vocals kind of doing something. We can go even further right here to like 100. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know, I want you to mess around with this. I can't hear because I'll get feedback and I hate wearing headphones, so it is what it is. But you know, there you go. You can do something like that, you know, and mess around with delays. So that's another little trick. It's a whole video for me to speak on that. So you know, it is what it is. But the next thing right here is just a reverb. All right, so I will just set this up the way I like to set up reverbs in FL. Use this Fruity Convolver if you're in FL because it is such an amazing plugin. But you know, reverb is going to give you that sense of space. You know, humans like to hear things that we hear in reality. You know what I mean? That's why when you've got that, you know, slight little silky reverb in the background, it gives you a sense of fulfillment. You know what I mean? You want to add luxury to your sound. So, you know, delay and reverb are going to add that luxurious element to your vocals. So, you know, you can hear right here, I don't think I've got a good sound, but, you know, when I inject a bit of reverb, you know, yeah, you know, we get that source, especially when you've got your beat in the background, you know, then you've got that nice sense of depth. But there are many videos, you know, definitely if you're in FL, use the Fruity Convolver. Look how many different reverbs you have. You know, you can emulate churches, you can emulate graveyards, cathedrals, auditoriums, you know what I mean? If you want to do a nice, tight sounding rap sound, you can go for something small room, you know, try this bathroom sound, you know, and then just add in a little bit to the vocal, you know, and you might just get this really interesting sound. You know, I don't know what that sounds like, but you know, blend those in minimal amounts, in less than 10%, and you're gonna start getting this depth, you know. But definitely focus on EQ, compression, and then a bit of silky sounds, you know, luxury sounds, echo and delay, and that's really all you need to start off with mixing vocals. From here on out, you can start doing watching in-depth videos on how to EQ, how to compress, you know what I mean? And then you can start watching some of my in-depth videos, and then things will make a lot more sense, you know, because then you can see, oh, okay, you used an EQ there, and then an EQ after the reverb, etc, etc. So, you know, that's really all I can think of. You know, if you're interested in presets, what I can recommend is go to my web store and try out my easy to use FLP. It'll have a whole bunch of presets that you can use and just mess around with, you know. It's really simple to use. And if you want something more advanced, you can try out some of my full mixing templates. So yeah, it is your boy Farai. Hope you learned something. Hope you have a good day. I'll check you out in the next video. Keep grinding. Peace out.